Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the At the Pylon podcast. Alongside Chandler Betts, my name is Nick Antonakas. Chandler, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was good, yeah. Didn't really do anything, which was lovely. We've all been very busy this year, this semester. Couple of different backgrounds for us today, so it's a nice little change of scenery for those at home.
I know you're back in Arlington. I
Yeah,
am not, which is
and you
sad.
leave
I'm
Arlington, yeah. Come
I'm
on,
down the Cape for Thanksgiving, but
hates me that much, guys. Yeah, it's crazy.
regard regardless, a lot of, I guess, good football on Thanksgiving, I would say. But one thing that comes to Patriots' minds around this time of year is the past. And the most recent past on Thanksgiving was last year's matchup for the Patriots against the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, Mac Jones balled out in that game, 382 yards. We saw a new risk that the offense was taking for probably the first time all last season. And that was really a pinnacle point of last year that gave me hope leading into this year of perhaps that could be what the offense is going to look like. Now, we've obviously seen, Chandler, how things have folded out so far this year, but thinking back to last season and how things went for the Pats on Thanksgiving last year, what would you kind of, I guess, say your feelings are around how far backwards they've gone in the past year?
Yeah, so looking back at that game, I felt as though we should have won that game. I think there was a missed call. It was either we got a touchdown taken off the board or they got one that should have been taken off the board. I forget which way.
It was the Henry touchdown that
Yeah, the
should have
Hunter
been
Henry
taken
one.
off the board. I
Yes.
mean, it should have been on the board for us, I should say.
Yes. But that was really the beginning of the end. If you look at it, we were on a 3-game win streak before that, and then we only won 2 more games for the rest of the season. We only beat the Dolphins and we beat the Cardinals without Kyler Murray. That was the end. That was where we were still when we still believed in Mac. We still thought that there was a semblance of hope for the team's future. But now the only hope lays in college students, and that is a crazy way to think about life as a Patriots fan. We've regressed, we've degenerated so much that now we come into a matchup with the team that has scored the least amount of points per game, and we still don't think we can win.
Yeah, and heading into this week's game against the Giants, Chandler, it's very much the first time that the Patriots see themselves involved in a tankathon.
Yeah,
Going into this
Tank
game,
Bowl.
yeah, the Tank Bowl, Pats and Giants, two prime selections for the top pick, I guess, in the draft
Yeah.
right now, along with the Carolina Panthers. Those are the three teams that are kind of like leading the horse race in terms of possibly having a chance at the number one overall pick. Patriots obviously stand at 2-8, Chandler. They're looking to avoid their first 2-9 start since 1993. And similar to other points of this season, and even dating back to last year, there's a bunch of uncertainty around the quarterback position right now. That's been the talk ever since we entered the bye after the Colts game, which featured Mac Jones getting benched in the fourth quarter in the final 2 minutes after he threw that terrible interception in the red zone. Heading into this week, we don't know if it's going to be Mac. We don't know if it's going to be Bailey Zappi. We don't know if it's going to be Malik Cunningham. It's really interesting how Bill Belichick has downplayed, I guess, the knowledge that not only he has, but the players have about who is going to be the quarterback. One thing Bill Belichick was quoted saying earlier today in practice, he was asked, why not on QB? Which I guess is just, why are you not answering what QB is starting, basically, because that's been what he's been getting drilled with all week. He said, quote, then we'll be announcing who's starting this, who's playing that, who's doing this, who's doing that. Once we get going on that, I'm not going down that road. Sorry. The reporter then follows up with, we promise to keep it to one position. And Bill Belichick, through laughter, or I guess smiles, says, yeah, right. So, little bit of character from Bill Belichick, despite the bleak times. Bailey Zappi was asked after practice, do you know who's starting? He just said a simple no. I hope it's not him. I'll get into that
Yeah.
later. But I guess, what are your thoughts, Chandler, on something that I wouldn't say that we've never seen before? Because sadly, even last year when Mac was working his way back from injury,
Yep.
we saw that uncertainty in the locker room as to who was going to start. Who do you kind of think is going to get the nod heading into this week? And I guess the other thing should be, who do you think is deserving of it?
It really has to be Mac. And I would say that it really would be a toss-up, not in terms of who deserves it between Zappy and Mac, but it would be a toss-up between Mac and the field. But had there actually been a situation like a competition, we would have seen some kind of report of so and so is getting first team reps. It seems as though Mac is getting the majority of the first team reps. And when you're a quarterback that isn't currently the starter, you need to catch up on a lot of first team reps if you're expected to play. I don't think that anybody else other than Mac is expected to start this upcoming week.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of the same boat that I'm in. Malik Cunningham, as much as I'd rather him start over Zappy, I think he has less of a chance than Bailey to get the nod.
Yep.
But regardless, it's a little bit questionable to me as to why Bill Belichick is keeping things so under wraps. Just because you could say, sure, it's a strategical advantage to kind of hide who you're going to start. But in this case, why are you even striving for that mystery when this has literally been hyped up as the Tank Bowl, like you said earlier? These are two very bad teams that are going head to head, where I guess both teams would honestly on the inside rather lose this pointless game than go on and get a win to lead to nothing. So while the uncertainty is definitely something to question, I do agree with you that probably Mac Jones is going to get the start. But do you think he's deserving of it?
I mean, he is the most talented quarterback that we know about on our roster right now. And like I've said on multiple occasions, you pick whoever you think gives you the best chance to win. It's not, I want to see this person play particularly. That's not really how an NFL mind works. So whoever we think gives the best chance to win is going to start, and it seems as though it has to be Mac.
Sadly, yeah, I think that's right. And coming from someone who's been totally supporting Mac Jones throughout this entire season, it's sad to see him, I guess, regress to this point of the question between him and Zappy even needing to exist. But regardless, I really hope Zappy doesn't get the nod in this one.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Giants, Chandler, they are down their starting quarterback. Daniel Jones has been out for a couple weeks. I think is it still a neck injury?
It is a torn ACL.
Oh, yeah, so he's done. Never mind.
He's done for the season. Yep.
The neck was earlier in the year, and then he came
Yeah.
back from that and tore his ACL. Look at, I'm in the loop, guys. But
I believe
regardless,
it's ACL, I think.
it's something, I guess, that's keeping him out. It's moved beyond the neck. So if you say he's out for the season, I believe you there, because that's a hard report to come across. That's wrong, I guess.
Torn ACL.
But yeah, Daniel Jones is not starting this week regardless.
And their backup quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, is also out for the foreseeable future, maybe the season. I'm not sure if it's been officially announced yet. I believe he's on IR, so
he is.
But yeah, so they have sorry, not to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, DeVito's getting the nod this week.
Yep. UDFA, undrafted free agent.
And he actually got them a win last week. That's the main point that we're going to touch on here.
Yep.
Giants upset I guess you could use it for that. They upset the Washington Commanders by a score of 14-7. It really looked like this game, and I guess to add on to the Tank Bowl thing from earlier, it really seemed that this game was going to be like really hyped up in terms of, we were saying it last week. The loser of this game is probably going to get the number 1 overall pick, or at least be pretty much a lock for the number 2 at that rate. With the Giants win last week, it kind of changes things. And at least from my perspective, it kind of makes me a little bit more comfortable heading into this game from a perspective where we want the Pats to lose. What do you think?
Yeah, the Giants did win 31-19 last week. 14-7 was their earlier in the season game with the Commanders.
I was like, what?
Yeah, no, you're all good. But yeah, Tommy DeVito was actually the rookie of the week in the NFL this past week, throwing for 3 touchdowns, 246 yards. It was a much better offensive performance than simply a 14-7 game. And Sam Howell was not good because, like I've said multiple times, he'll give you 3 picks every once in a while, and he did. He gave him 3 picks in the past game. I think that this is not, I don't really remember your first question because I was focused on trying to see if I was crazy about the game. But yeah, 31-19 win for the Giants. And they looked like they're a football team, and we haven't looked like we're a football team in the past 8 or so weeks. So I think that even though we are the betting favorite going into the game somehow, I think that it's going to be tough for us to fend against a team that has scored 31 points at all this season.
Yeah, and that was my fault rapidly looking up the Giants' schedule there. I just saw Commanders off the slab 14-7, so I was like, okay, that's the score. But it sounded a little bit off to me when I first found the report because I remembered DeVito getting the nod from last week in terms of being
Yeah.
the rookie of the week. So I was like, how does that work out in a 14-point game? But
But that
regardless, it
tells you
doesn't.
that the Giants are 3-8 right now. 2 of their 3 wins are against the Commanders.
Yeah, and regardless, we lost to the Commanders in
Exactly.
pretty bad fashion, I guess. Well, not yeah, it was bad.
Didn't look good.
Even the score sheet was close, but it was still bad.
It didn't look
So
good.
Giants have wins over a team that we lost to. Branching out from that, they still stand at a more successful record than us, obviously 3-8 on the year. They don't look good by any means, but it seems like they're finally starting to learn how to survive without Daniel Jones in the lineup. So weighing those couple of things, Chandler, how has your perspective changed from last week in terms of this was a game that you, I guess, sadly could see the Pats getting a win in?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the schedule that the Giants have had this year. Their wins came against the Cardinals without Kyler Murray. That is the Josh Dobbs led Cardinals, and then the Commanders twice. Their losses: Dallas, San Francisco, Seattle, Miami, Buffalo, Jets, Raiders, Dallas again. Those are other than the Jets, and I guess kind of the Raiders, but the Raiders aren't that bad.
I mean, we
Those are
lost to them.
really good teams. Those are all playoff teams. The Giants have had one of the hardest schedules in football this year, and along with having a lot of injuries. But maybe, just maybe, they're starting to figure it out because DeVito threw for almost 100 yards more than he has in any other game this past year, and Saquon Barkley's healthy again. Though a big thing, the Giants are going to be most likely without Dexter Lawrence, their best defensive player, because he was just marked as doubtful a few minutes ago. So that's some big breaking news coming to you live from at the Pylon. But they're an injured team. We're an injured team. We're more injured than them. We're probably already worse than them even going into the year. I don't know if we're going to win. I don't know if we're going to lose, though. Save that for the predictions.
Yeah, and I guess that's a highlight, Chandler, there, that breaking news report of doing an episode on a Friday, which we don't do
Yeah.
too much. But regardless, going back to the Giants' schedule a bit, blown out by the Cowboys twice. Cowboys are a great team. We got blown out by them. So nothing really to compare there. A lot of their losses, although they were against pretty good teams, I guess top half of the league teams, and some of them came in pretty ugly fashion as I'm looking here. There was still a couple of close bouts, specifically with the two teams that the Patriots have beat so far this year, that being the Bills and the Jets. The Giants beat the Bills by a mere score. I mean, the Bills beat the Giants by a mere score of 14-9.
That game was horrible.
It was a very bad game, I remember, but regardless, still a one-score contest. And then the Jets game that they lost was by a score of 13-10 in overtime. So the two wins that the Patriots have this season against both the Bills and the Jets, when the Giants faced off against them, it was close quarters. So when comparing these two teams head to head, it's going to be a close matchup. While the Giants, of course, like I said, technically have a better record, they have just as many losses as New England right now. It's just because New England has been on their bye that they're 2-8 rather than 3-8.
Yep.
Who's to say that they're going to be 3-8 at any point anyway? But
Nick,
regardless,
how many passing yards the Giants had in their loss against the Jets?
I don't remember off the top of my I think it was pretty low, right?
It was 7.
So not pretty low,
Seven
very low.
passing yards. Yeah, which is just absolutely
I
absurd.
have Saquon in fantasy too, so I mean, I'm
Yeah.
surprised that it's like leading to multiple, like, I guess, realizations late in the game there. But
Yeah,
from somebody who has to follow the Giants relatively close, considering I have Saquon, but you
sure.
know, still bad news for the Giants throughout their season thus far. Their past 3 games have been losses. Well, before the Commanders game, I should say.
Yes.
And that kind of broke that streak in terms of them turning things around heading into this game against the Patriots. Now, New England, on the other hand, they have been on a 3-game skid, coming off possibly their worst game of the year against the Colts. So things are definitely on the flip side for these two teams. Regardless, heading into it, as we said at the top of the episode, this is definitely a game that both teams want to lose. I'll pitch this question to you, Chandler, before we kind of move into a preview of what you're going to have for us next week in terms of a comparison for a rookie. Considering who loses this game, let's weigh both scenarios. If the Pats lose, what pick do you think they're looking at? And I guess same for the Giants.
If the Pats lose, I'm really starting to think it's going to be 1. But if the Pats lose this game, I will say it's going to be 2. And if the Patriots win, I'm still going to say it's 2 because I think that is how the strength of schedule is going to break down at the end of the year. Just because we've seen how hard this Giants schedule is. If they have a harder schedule than us, they are going to get a worse draft pick because they will be seen as having lost to better teams, so they're a better team by extension. But
yeah,
God, I it's really feeling like it's going to be at absolute lowest 3 for the Patriots. So I'll say it's going to be 2 if we lose and 3 if we win.
what a revolutionary, I guess, pick selection that would be, God forbid, unless the Patriots reel out 4 stupid wins later in the year. But they have a tough schedule to go, Chandler. So for that reason, I agree with you. I don't think they're going to crack the Panthers and get the number 1 overall pick. But regardless, I think they have a chance at 2 in both scenarios. If they lose this game, they're almost a lock for 2, because the fact of the matter is, I think after this Giants game, they're going to lose the rest of their games this season. I don't think there's a game that they could win outside of this Giants game.
If we don't crack the Panthers, I still think that there's a chance that Justin Fields is their quarterback next year for the Bears. So maybe there's not even a quarterback at 1. We're starting to see some mock drafts with the first quarterback being taken off the board around pick 3. So
really,
because the teams above us, the Giants just signed Daniel Jones to a multi-million-dollar contract, a huge contract, and the Bears have Justin Fields, who I think that they still relatively believe in. He's not that bad.
I mean, they traded away the pick last year to hang on to him. So
true. Yeah. So we'll see what the situation with that is. It's likely that a team will try to trade up to 1 to secure the quarterback they want, maybe to 2 to secure one of the quarterbacks. We'll see how exactly that works out. But I'm starting to like the Patriots' chances to have their pick of one of the top 2 quarterbacks, or potentially, this is a good transition, pick at Marvin Harrison Jr., and then a second-round quarterback like Jaden Daniels out of LSU, which is who I'll be covering next week.
Chandler, we look forward to that preview, obviously. My papa at Thanksgiving was talking very highly of Jaden Daniels. He's hoping that the Pats possibly get a shot at him in the second round. But regardless, one point I'll make before we move into keys for this game, as reluctant as I am to even make keys because I want us to lose, the Bears, it's interesting that you bring up that they could draft Marvin Harrison Jr. first overall, because if they elect to hold on to a guy like Justin Fields and end up going number 1 wide receiver, that to me would be insane, because the Pats will get a quarterback, obviously, which it looks like they're going to be at number 2. But if they were to trade away, they're really going to invest in a guy like Fields, and they'd rather gain more assets, because obviously they have still the 5th overall pick in the draft as well right now, as things stand today. Mm-hmm. A team that I could see possibly moving up that I'm starting to think of, what about the Raiders? Could you see the Raiders send a first and Devontae Adams to the Bears?
Wow.
I just thought of that like off the dome right now.
I don't know. I mean, never say never with something like that, but it would feel really silly if they traded for DJ Moore. Oh, sorry. I see what you mean. Excuse me. So you're saying that the Bears offense next year could look like Justin Fields, Devontae Adams, DJ Moore.
Yeah, and then you get an O lineman at 5.
It's not bad, but see, this is what the situations are when you stink, but you accrue a lot of first round picks. You have the ability to have these kinds of dream scenarios where maybe Fields isn't the guy. Maybe he is, but maybe he isn't. They had a good game against the Lions last time out. They only lost by 5 to a good Lions team. Fields has shown that he can do it in the air, kind of, and definitely on the ground. And it'll be interesting. Only time will tell. But I'm not saying no. I don't think it will happen. But the Raiders could trade up. Maybe one of these episodes, probably at the end of the year. How will say that for the
Yeah,
offseason? I'll really run through what teams are trade up candidates. I'll do a full dive of the quarterback situation in the draft.
that'll be a fun slew of episodes that we'll have in the offseason. So make
Oh
sure to
yeah,
stay tuned. That's a side note. This podcast will continue throughout the entire year. We'll probably go
yes,
down to one episode after the season ends, one episode a week rather than two, but we're still going to be rolling. So stick with us. But
oh
regardless,
yeah,
next week, Chandler, you're taking a look at Jaden Daniels from LSU.
yep.
That's obviously the guy that everybody's going to want to look at in terms of the Patriots, who definitely need a quarterback going into this week. But determining off that, I will go into my three keys, one of which starts with a certain quarterback on our roster not getting the nod heading into this week's contest. And that man is Bailey Zappi. My first key is do not play Bailey Zappi. If you want to win this game, I don't care how much you've lost faith in a guy like Mac Jones. You do not put Bailey Zappi into this contest, because if that happens, we are not winning. I'm sorry to say to all of our Bailey Zappi bandwagoners out there, he is not good, and I do not want to see him in another NFL game. If Mac Jones happens to get sat, I'd much rather see a guy like Malik Cunningham come into this contest. If we see Zappi in, it's going to be a really tough watch because I'm going to be upset. But regardless, that's my first key. Don't play Bailey Zappi. Second off, shut down Saquon Barkley, as much as I also don't want this to happen, because first off, I want the Patriots to lose. Second off, I have Saquon Barkley on my fantasy team. They're going to need to shut him down if they want to win. This guy's electric. A lot of people thought he fell off the side of the earth when he got injured a couple years ago. Came back. Everybody thought he was washed. Really proved himself last year. Had some contract issues over the offseason. Eventually worked his way back. And he's still been pretty consistent throughout this year. He's had a couple of explosive games, a couple games where he's been more quiet, but we notice in those quiet games is when bad things happen for the Giants. So if you can shut him down, that would mean success for the Patriots. Last but not least, a troubled soul on New England needs to step up, and that man is J.C. Jackson. We obviously have not seen him play since before the bye. He didn't play against the Colts, didn't make the trip to Germany because of that whole ordeal of not coming back to the hotel. In the game against the Commanders, we obviously saw a lot of decreased snap reps for him. Since that happened, we saw guys like Jack Jones get cut. So JC Jackson is really the last like solid piece of our secondary left, unless if you consider a guy like Sean Wade in that cornerback room to be successful. I don't. So JC Jackson is really the head point of this cornerback room here in New England. And if you're going to want to put a stop to any sort of passing game, despite DeVito being at the helm for the Giants, you're going to need your top corner to step up. So that's my third and final key. JC Jackson show up to play on Sunday. Chandler, what about you?
All right, so I have got our three keys for the week. First one, hit DeVito early. He's a rookie quarterback. Bill has a great history of going against rookie quarterbacks. If you can get him on the ground early, get him to make a mistake early, get him confused early, that's going to bode pretty well for us defensively throughout the course of the game. That's going to be necessary. I'm going to say that hitting is the easiest way to do that. Let's hit him early. Their offensive line is also banged up. Evan Neal is out. We've known that. They've had a really banged up offensive line for the whole year. And this is especially important because they never established a really strong swing tackle. We have, as much as we hate Verdarian Lowe with our entire being, he is at least our established swing tackle. They don't even have that. So that's really important that they're going to have a guy who doesn't know how to play offensive line, starting most likely at right tackle. Take advantage of that, hit him early. Second up, don't let one player beat us. Now, it's similar to shutting down Saquon because he is most likely the player that would beat us. However, the other one that has the chance to, Jalen Hyatt, rookie wide receiver out of Tennessee. He's a burner. He's finally started to pick it up a little bit. He can this could be a come out game for him because frankly, we don't have a strong cornerback that can guard him, that can run with him. He has the chance to go for 7 catches, 110 yards and a touchdown. I'm not ruling it out of possibility. He could do it. Don't let one player beat us. Those are the two that I'd be highlighting, especially with Darius Slayton, their number 1 wide receiver, doubtful for the game. Third up, protect Mac Jones. Now, this is an obvious one, and I say Mac Jones, you forced me to put a question mark on the preview. I'm not putting a question mark in this game because Mac Jones hopefully is the quarterback for the full game, because I don't expect us to want to put in Cunningham, and I don't expect us to put in anybody other than Zappy. And I don't want to see Zappy. I'm just like you there. To all the Zappy stands, you're wrong. I love you, but you're wrong. He's not good at football. Protecting Mac Jones is really important because their defensive coordinator, the Giants' defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale, known really good defensive coordinator when he was with the Ravens, and he is a blitz-heavy coordinator. He blitzed Sam Howell last week. I believe it was over 25% of the time. That is big. We've seen that Mac hasn't had a lot of time to throw the ball this year. If we can protect Mac Jones, if we can hit DeVito early, and if we make them do a team effort to beat us, we have a chance.
Chandler, with all of those keys, which I very much agree with, we finally move into our score predictions. Who do you have, Pats or Giants, this Sunday at 1 p.m.?
Big game. You will never hear me. This is not a shot at you. You will never hear me say that I want the Patriots to lose a game. I will never say that as long as I'm a Patriots fan. And by that, I mean, unless I'm working for somebody else, that I can't do that. But I say that because I just finished an application for sport management. Shout out right before this.
Go Chandler.
Yeah. But having said that, 17-13 Patriots loss. The Giants are going to win 17-13. The Patriots are going to get the second overall pick.
Chandler, as much as I've said on this episode that I do want the Patriots to lose, I want to make this a focal point, I guess, going out of it. A focal point with an F. Thank you, Chandler.
Okay.
Regardless, I really think that regardless of whether or not I want the Patriots to lose this week, it comes from a place of love, because this team is not going to go far with their mediocre seasons. And as much as I want to see them win on paper, it's best for their future that they lose. So while it's going to be tough to watch them lose every week, I'm finally invested in that boat that you've kind of been in since 2020, where it's just like, we got to get one of those losing seasons out of the way in order to progress forward as a group, rather. So in saying that, as much as I'm rooting against the Patriots in this one, it's coming from a place of love. I'm always a Pats fan. I always will be. But 17-10, Giants are getting this W. But until then, I guess, until Monday's episode, where we hopefully react to it'll probably be a painful loss if it happens, and a win will also be painful. So a lot of pain in the upcoming scenarios for us here at the Pylon. Regardless, you're going to want to check it out. Make sure to tune in next Monday for our full reaction to this Sunday's game. And then following Thursday, we'll be back to our regular routine of a preview episode. So we'll see you back next week in full swing. I hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving. Hopefully you can enjoy this Sunday's game, despite it being literally the Tank Bowl. But regardless, it'll be entertaining from some sort of aspect, whether you're rooting for the Giants or the Pats. So enjoy the weekends alongside Chandler Betts. My name is Nick Antonakas. We'll see you on Monday.